Hi, this is Real World Audio, and we are delving into the mystery of high efficiency loudspeaker types. So, this is something that many of you were interested to know about. So, what kind of high efficiency loudspeakers are there? And here you go. These are the main types that you can find them. Number one, I'm starting with the bass reflex types because that's the one that most of you will be most have the most experience with, or I would say it's the easiest to understand because they are basically bass reflex cabinets, and there's a variety of them which I call pseudo horn. There is no such thing. If you google it up, there's no such thing as a pseudo horn. I call them pseudo horn because they are advertised as horn loudspeakers, and even though they have horn high frequency or horn mids, but they have bass reflex parts which are of so low efficiency that basically they have to drop the efficiency of the horn to match the inefficient bass reflex, which nets you a total of a low efficiency loudspeaker. Such an example for pseudo horn is a Klipsch RP600. The other type which we can find with high efficiency loudspeaker is the open baffles. So I would say like most of the open baffles are on the high efficiency side, or I would reiterate this saying that it doesn't make much sense to build a low efficiency open baffle, and it doesn't take any more effort to make it more efficient with higher efficiency. And I'm going to go into detail what does it entail. And there's the next type, which is the void pipes transmission lines. That's a completely different breed from those two above them. There's also the true horns, which are the true horn loudspeakers. They have the potential to have the very highest efficiency. So with true horns, you will find not just high efficiency loudspeakers, but ultra efficient loudspeakers. If you are looking for that, that's basically the far end of the high efficiency loudspeakers. Those are the true horns. And also there's the unicorn, the omnidirectional high efficiency loudspeaker. And here I am not talking about the ohm wash loudspeakers, which I would not consider high efficiency yet. They are on the higher efficient side of the low efficiency loudspeaker, the ohm washes, but they are, I would say, just like reasonably high efficient, but not in the territory that I'm talking about today. So for high efficient, I would say that it's 95 dB per watt meter, where the really high efficiency zone begins. If you have something around 93 dB per watt meter, that's like a reasonably efficient loudspeaker. For those of you who are used to quads or 83 dB efficient bookshelves, even a 91, 92, 93 dB efficiency loudspeaker is high efficiency. But when you are used to the world of high efficiency, then really, in my experience, the big changes that happen with the dynamic perception, that starts at 95 dB per watt meter. And the watt is really critical here. It's not that 2.83 volt per meter and the current hungry loudspeaker, because in that scenario, when you see the voltmeter specification, they almost always provide it because the wattmeter figure is too low, and to boost the sales they give you the measurement with the volts, and to calculate the watt meter equivalent, then you usually need to knock off a couple dBs from the efficiency, and that we can find, for example, with Wilson loudspeakers, is when you read that it's like you read 90 dB efficiency, like 92 dB per watt meter, you can really knock 5 dB easily from that, and it turns out that they are truly like mid 80 dB per watt meter efficient, and that's not high efficiency loudspeaker, that's just like a medium efficiency. So back to the omnidirectional loudspeakers, I only know of one loudspeaker which is omnidirectional and high efficient, actually ultra high efficient. That's my Voice of Lancelot loudspeaker that I designed and I built, and although I would have to say that it's not fully omnidirectional, there's almost an octave between about 250 to 400 hertz, 450 hertz, that has directionality to it, but anything else below that and above that, it's omnidirectional. And when you look at that octave is below 500 hertz, and our ears directionality sensor, I mean the brain's processing power to process directionality of sound, works only above 500 hertz. So that's kind of like a very reasonable compromise to make, to compromise a narrow band of frequency which is below the ear's ability to locate anyway. So where whether it's omnidirectional or not, it doesn't matter as much. So anyway, I'm just sparing a few words for that, because it's something that has never ever been done to my knowledge other than my build here. So that's why it deserves a few words, because it's guaranteed that you are not going to hear a single word about anyone on the internet or otherwise of high efficiency or ultra efficiency omnidirectional speakers. So I'm your only source, so probably you don't mind if I say a few words about it and about the potentials and what can you benefit, because I am sharing how you can build one. So before that, let's just have a look into the general bottleneck for high efficiency loudspeaker. This is the Achilles heel of all high efficiency loudspeakers. It's the bass or the bass. So basically it's not the fish but the bass frequency. So the low frequency generation, the general rule is you either can have very low frequencies or you can have high efficiency, but you cannot have the two together unless your loudspeaker is enormous. And that's the Achilles heel, and the various designs are there to overcome this problem. So basically we can see the entire development of loudspeakers from horns, which were the oldest form of loudspeakers, to bass reflex cabinets, which are the current most fashionable and most widespread loudspeakers. And the driving force behind this transformation was that Achilles heel, that we want bass response, but we are unwilling to sacrifice too much real estate in our living room, or even if we are able to sacrifice it, we often cannot afford to have those big cabinets because the manufacturers are asking an arm and a leg for it. However, if you build them DIY, you can build them at a reasonable price. So let's just get into the designs. So what is required to overcome this Achilles heel? And from each type of loudspeaker cabinets, something different is required. So if you have a bass reflex cabinet, then what is needed is cabinet volume. So it means that you need a very large cabinet to produce low frequency notes at high efficiency with a bass reflex cabinet. Now, and that's something, guys, that you can guess whether a bass reflex cabinet has high efficiency or low efficiency just by looking at its size. If it's a bookshelf speaker, then it will have low efficiency. If it's a gargantuan cabinet the size of a refrigerator, it will have very efficient bass response. And not just bass response, but all over the frequency range, provided that we put a matching tweeter and matching mid-range units in the box, which is relatively a much easier task to make. Now let's look at horn speakers. For horns, what's required for bass response is the mouth diameter. So basically the mouth is the part that's staring at you. That's the end of the horn, and the diameter of the end determines the bass response. So basically you can calculate the low end response of any horn by looking at the opening, and the lowest frequency fully supported by that horn, that's the basically the double, that's the diameter of the mouth. So imagine that the mouth, the diameter defines the half wave of that frequency that it can fully support, and it means that you need an 8-meter diameter horn mouth to support fully a 20 hertz sound. So basically it means that you need basically like almost like a cathedral size room to house horns that can go down to that frequency. And of course you see people doing it much more easily in their own homes, but that involves a trick. And the trick behind that is they make it so that the mouth of the horn is your entire room, and in that case you have to do special design for those horns, which means that basically you need to build the horns into your home. I have covered that already in one of my previous episodes, or actually several, I think. But now, let's just be said that if you want a horn loudspeaker that can support like down to 20 hertz or below 20 hertz, then that will be your biggest loudspeaker of all of these categories. And the only reason we are not using horn speakers is because they are just too big. They are too enormous. And if you think that the Altec voice of the theater cabinets are gigantic, they are dwarfed by horn, like true horn designs that have bass response produced by a horn, because for the voice of the theater cabinets, the bass response is provided by bass reflex, and only the mid-range and high frequency are provided by horn. So that's an important thing that we need to learn. For void pipes, that's another type of very efficient loudspeaker, and there the bass is defined by the length of the transmission line, and they are the most space efficient to produce low bass. So if you want high efficiency loudspeakers and you are space conscious, transmission lines void pipes will give you the lowest frequency extension with the smallest cabinet size. So that's why everyone should keep them on the radar, and also because they are the easiest to make. You can make a single driver transmission line or void pipe easily, and that's not possible really with the horn at all. Bass reflex cabinet, it can be done, but then you will have a gigantic cabinet. Open baffle, yep, you can also make a single driver open baffle, but with open baffle you will have problems with low end extension. And for lower open baffles, the bass, the low end frequency extension is defined by the width of your baffles. So basically, if you want deeper bass with an open baffle, you need to make the baffle wider and bigger, and you can get ultimate bass response with them by making them infinite baffles. But that creates another set of problems with imaging. So the most promising with open baffles is basically to keep them big but reasonable size, so that you have the maximum benefit for imaging as well, because you need to be able to position them freely in your room to make them work with your room, to get the best imaging and best frequency response. So when we look at them, the strongest bass production, the potential for that is with the bass reflex cabinets. So they can get you the most gutsy bass response of all of these. But I have to say that the transmission lines have just as much power capacity, and there you can build a transmission line even with a 4-inch driver and have a surprising response down to below 30 hertz. So essentially I would say that transmission lines could be called as the kings of the bass. And if you don't believe me, then visit a cathedral, and guess what, guys? All of the church organ pipes are transmission lines. And there's no doubt that the church organ is really the queen and the king of bass. So in Europe they are the queens, and in the US they are the kings. And if you build a transmission line, the same thing is going to happen with you. Any kind of transmission lines, void pipes, can reproduce church organs with a tonal beauty that the real instrument has. While bass reflex cabinets, mostly they just emphasize the raw power, but often they fail on delivering on that tonal beauty that these transmission lines give you. Horns could give you everything if you can fit them in your room, and tough luck for that for 20 hertz. You need a custom room that is basically a horn, so it's like a total custom job. There's nothing you can get anywhere. With open baffles you are pretty much out of luck if you want to push below 40 hertz. However, with open baffle, I would say they are the kings of mid bass, and upper bass. So there they produce an astonishingly good mid bass and upper bass, much better than bass reflex cabinets, potentially better than void pipes. Horns could do it better, but as I said, if you could fit them in your room. So thank you guys for tuning in. We will continue from here. Have a wonderful day. Please like and subscribe my videos so others can like and subscribe. Bye bye.